The Bridging World. Written and narrated by J. Ellis. Chapter 1. Zone 77. Jake Sullivan's scope hovered over a town nestled unevenly in a clearing surrounded like a bowl by 4 mountains. He did not know the town's name, nor its history, nor who lived there. What he knew was that it didn't exist several hours ago.
You in position, Jake?
Jake grabbed the radio from his waistband and held it to his mouth. I got eyes on Zone 77. Levon, you're not gonna believe this. It's an entire town.
Did you say town?
Yeah, I've never seen a bridging event this large before. I can faintly hear your trucks, so it should be coming into view for you shortly. Jake set his radio off to his left and repositioned himself over his rifle. He wiped the snow that had accumulated on the scope's lens and peered through them. 3 large transport trucks, led by Levon, trundled between 2 of the mountains. Their diesel engines reverberated with a low rumble. At their speed, Jake figured they would make the town's border within the next 10 minutes. The radio crackled once more. Jake swept his rifle's gaze over the town. He reached for the radio while keeping his eye glued to the scope. Definitely from Earth. The buildings are in rough shape because of the transference, but I would recognize architecture like that anywhere. If I were a betting man, I would also guess an American origin.
Any sign of people?
Jake surveyed the town's streets and windows. For the moment, no. I'll keep looking. This place, however, it's amazing. I've spotted a couple of gas stations, several vehicles, what looks like a small grocery store, and I believe a medical center.
So, we hit the mother lode.
That's the understatement of the day. We'll be able to keep everyone back home fed for months, and think of the trading value. Fuel, vehicle parts, medical supplies? Can we say gold mine?
Well, let's pick it clean before anyone else discovers it.
Sounds good. Be careful in there.
Will do.
A young, spunky voice chimed in over the radio next.
Hey, Jake. I know it's quite cozy up there all by yourself. I'm sure you're about to break out some hot cocoa and enjoy all this wonderful winter weather we're having. But make sure you're watching our backs, okay?
Jake rolled his eyes, but his lips cracked a smile. Don't you worry, Nikolai. I can multitask. But remember that I'm a hunter, not a sniper.
So, what you're saying is that we're screwed if anything threatening shows
I'm just saying that I hope you brought bullets today.
Thanks, Jake. It's great knowing that I can count on you.
Sarcasm noted, but you're welcome regardless. Levon's voice returned.
We're entering town. Jake, you're our eyes up there. I need you to guide us. You said you saw a medical center, correct?
More like a small clinic, but I imagine there's plenty to scavenge. You want to head towards the center of town. That's northwest of your position. It's across from the grocery store. I'll let you know when you're on the correct street.
Roger that. Heading northwest.
Jake found navigating the trucks rather challenging. Buildings hid the condition of several of the roads. In its natural setting, that wouldn't have mattered. Now it proved cumbersome with the maze of rubble and shattered concrete. The weather only compounded the problems. It wasn't a blizzard, but it wasn't flurrying either. The rifle scope required wiping every few seconds, making Jake struggle to keep track of everyone's position. Worse yet, the surroundings demanded constant surveillance. With a bridging event this monumental, others would begin snooping around soon enough. Jake tightened his jacket's collar. 2 hours in, and his nose was raw from the cutting wind. His shaggy, sable-colored hair and luxuriant beard drooped from melting flakes. The extended period of lying in the snow had also left his clothes damp and heavy. A hot meal and warm fireplace became more preferable with every passing second. One thing kept him intrigued, though. A burning question, whose answer eluded him. Hey, Levon?
Yeah.
During a bridging event, everything within the radius of the event gets transported, correct?
So far from what I've witnessed, that seems to be the pattern, yes?
Where are the town's residents then? We should have seen someone by now. Nikolai's voice chimed in.
I've been wondering the same thing. Unless evacuated or abandoned before the bridging event occurred, there should be people here. So where is everyone?
I'm not sure.
Levon said.
We know it's been quite a few hours since the bridging event took place. Perhaps the residents, in a state of fear and confusion, left.
All of them?
Nikolai asked.
Kid, I don't know. A lot of reasons could explain it. We just need to keep our eyes alert.
I don't know, Jake said. Something about it just doesn't sit well with me. It was midday when Levon and his team steered their trucks into the clinic's parking lot. An eerie silence settled in as the truck's engines quieted. Light gusts of wind and pattering snowflakes brought the only audible sounds. Levon's skin chilled as coldness crept inside, replacing the warmth of the now absent heater. He glanced at the driver's side mirror, which reflected a plaza across the street. He could see the grocery store, but another store 2 units over held his attention longer. The name was unintelligible, but the large picture of an assault rifle advertised it well enough. The list of stops grew longer. Levon felt the older gentleman next to him staring inquisitively. Silent Oleg, people called him. Fitting, as Oleg rarely spoke. It wasn't by choice, however. English was the primary language spoken by the colony. Back on Earth, Oleg had lived in the country of Ukraine. This, mixed with his age, left him knowing few English words. Levon acknowledged Oleg's questioning expression with a nod and pulled the keys out of the ignition. He grabbed his semi-automatic rifle and both he and Oleg exited the truck in unison. The air echoed to the truck's doors closing behind them. Shouldering his rifle, Levon crunched his way to the back of the cargo compartment. He could hear the rest of his crew getting out of their trucks in response, and he waited as the four of them, which included Nikolai, made their way over to him. He stood for a moment studying them, his aged eyes calculating.
All right, here's the plan, he said. We have 3 guns. That's it. There are 6 of us, so we'll need to split into 3 groups. 2 people per group. One person carries the firearm and leads, while the other hauls supplies. For those carrying supplies, duffel bags are in the truck. Make sure you grab one. While inside the clinic, keep an eye out for civilians. Appear approachable and friendly should you run into one. Remember your own experiences when these events happen to you. A lot of us felt scared and confused. Now, let's be realistic. We won't be the only colony here for long. Let's try to hit as many locations as possible. That means don't waste time on non-essential items. Jake's our sentry lookout. If he reports unwelcome guests, we pack it up and leave. Remember, none of you are soldiers. Your weapons are for last resort. Do we understand each other?
Everyone responded unanimously.
Yes, sir. All right, I'll assign teams now. Alex, you're with Regina. David, you're with Oleg. And Nikolai, you're with me. Make sure your radios stay on at all times. No exceptions.
Levon turned and climbed into the cargo compartment of his truck. He could hear Nikolai outside complaining under his breath.
Aw, man. About some injustice. Now this kid's Regina. Jake's sitting on his butt, and I got to pair with an old man.
Levon snatched a duffel bag and hurled it at Nikolai's feet. Nikolai stared up at Levon with disdain.
Seriously? You're making me the tote boy?
Sorry, Levon said. I'm old.
Nikolai threw his hands up in defeat.
Okay. I admit it. I deserve that.
Let's try to keep the antics to a minimum, Mr. Danzer. You've completed several successful and non-eventful expeditions. I realize that. Regardless, you need to stay sharp. These excursions can go south at a moment's notice.
Yeah, I know. Relax, you old hand-wringer. Look, we're not the main squad. I get it. We haven't trained as long, and we have minimal experience. Your fears are justified. Don't underestimate us, though. I'm young and spry. David's strong. Jake's not a sniper, but he's a good shot. Regina's cute. Oleg is Oleg, and I don't particularly like Alex. Boom. 18.
This right here is the reason I paired you with me.
Why? Because you can't live without my charming personality?
No, it's because I seriously doubt you could live without me.
Nikolai clutched his chest.
Sir, I'll have you know that I am a human being with feelings.
Grab the duffel bag, Mr. Danzer. We have a job to do.
Levon dropped from the truck and faced everyone.
To those carrying firearms, remember your safety training. Safety switch stays on until needed. If you don't plan to destroy it, don't point at it. And keep those fingers off the triggers until you're ready to shoot. Let's get this done.
He then reached for his radio.
Okay, stand by. We're going in. Let us know if you see anything.
Copy that.
Jake said.
Standing by.
Levon unshouldered his rifle and chambered around.
Regina and Oleg, who held the firearms for their groups, followed suit. Levon had only taken his first step towards the clinic when a sound caught his ear. Initially, he thought it was the dog barking off in the distance. There was something else, though, an unnatural growl of sorts. He stood a moment longer, straining his ear. The squad noticed and began scanning the surroundings. The scream stunned them, raised every hair on their body. A wailing yet guttural roar erupted as 3 shotgun blasts thundered in rapid succession. Another bout of screaming followed, but ended in gurgling abruptness. Seconds later, the barking of the dog contorted into yowls of agony, and then nothing but a chilling moan of wind remained. Upon hearing the first gunshot, Levon had grabbed cover behind his truck and motioned to the others to do the same. The unexpected suddenness of it made his adrenaline kick into overdrive. He tried to control his breathing, but it had taken him off guard. His mind drowned in a sea of questions, stress, and tactical decisions. He looked toward the others, their experience betrayed by their expressions. Fear and uncertainty. Their faces paled, bodies trembling. They looked at him, waiting for him to take control. He raised his radio up, trying his best to keep his voice steady.
Jake, tell me you saw what that was.
The radio chirped back in response.
I'm sorry. I heard the shots, but up here it's difficult to pinpoint the placement with everything echoing off of these mountains. Is everyone okay?
It wasn't the answer Levon wanted, but it didn't surprise him.
Everyone's fine. Whoever that was, they weren't aiming at us. I need your eyes, Jake. We're using the trucks for cover. See what you can see, and make sure nothing's approaching us.
Yes, sir.
Levon turned to the others, noting their positions. He pointed to Alex, David, and Nikolai, who lacked a gun.
Stay low in the back of the truck, and keep your survival knives at the ready.
They obeyed and slipped into the truck. Levon directed his gaze to Regina.
Regina, safety off and cover the side of the truck opposite me.
She nodded and complied. Levon faced Oleg next, showing himself setting the safety to off on his rifle. Oleg acknowledged the command and repeated the action on his shotgun. Levon then motioned Oleg to stand beside him as he peeked around the truck's corner. With his rifle only equipped with iron sights, he had nothing but his eyes for monitoring. Regardless, no immediate danger appeared charging in their general direction. Silence also hung in the air. Whatever just occurred had ended, and judging by the screams, the winner was apparent. The mystery of where the town's residents disappeared gained some clarity. Jake breathed heavily as he desperately searched for the source of the shots. Even with the mountainside's protection, choking panic wrapped its fingers around his thoughts like a poisonous vine. He had been on a few scavenging hunts by this point, but not much had occurred on him. Now, the safety of his team relied on his ability to fulfill his role as a scout. He gripped his rifle tighter at the sound of Levon's voice. Jake attempted to calm his breathing before pressing the radio's button.
Nothing yet. I'm sorry. Snowfall's getting heavier, and there are a lot of hiding spots. However, the clinic appears safe. I haven't spotted any movement in the vicinity. You could probably make it inside without issue.
5 seconds passed before Levon responded.
I got a bad feeling about this
Jake hesitated a moment. What do you want to do? He couldn't help the tinge of hope in his voice. Another pause, longer this time.
I'm not a fan of the idea, but we should back it up and abort. We're not prepared to handle confrontation of any sort. I say we head home, wait for the main scavenging squad to return from their current mission, and then bring them back here. They're better equipped, and it'll make scavenging an area this size easier.
Jake breathed a heavy sigh, feeling the tension in his body soften. I think that's a good idea. It's not ideal, but I agree that we're at a massive disadvantage right now.
My thoughts entirely. The safety of this squad is my top priority. Nothing we grab today is worth one of you getting injured. Better to return with more people.
What are your orders?
Maintain overwatch while we vacate. Once we pass through the town's border, make your way towards the foot of the mountain. We'll pick you up and head home.
Understood. Stay safe.
You as well.
Jake closed his eyes for a moment, letting out another hefty sigh. He noticed his hands shaking and took some deep breaths. It was fortunate that no one could see him right now. The crack of gunfire startled him. A rifle, and powerful at that. He raised his scope and searched for the trucks. Stress combed through his body at the realization that he hadn't been paying attention. Warm sweat mixed with droplets of melted snow. When his crosshairs landed on his squad mates, he felt confused. They were scrambling towards Levon's sprawled out body. Why was Levon on the ground? The blood drained from Jake's face, and he could hear the stuttering of his breath. Nikolai's frantic voice came over the radio, and Jake's heart sank at his words.